Hey songwriters, welcome back to the studio, and in today's video, we're taking a deep dive into vocal reverb within GarageBand. But I found light. We're gonna look at different tools and techniques that you can use to get luscious vocal reverb in GarageBand, and it's going to be epic. So let's dive in. So the first two reverbs I want to show you are simply the stock reverbs within GarageBand, and you can find those by hitting B on your typing keyboard to bring up the smart controls or the mix window. And if you come down here, you'll see master reverb, and this is a long reverb, meaning it has a long tail behind it. The other reverb I want to show you is this one over here, and this is a short reverb, obviously meaning it has a short reverb tail, or kind of like you're in a small room. And now I want to solo this lead vocal so you can hear the effect that the long reverb and the short reverb is having on the vocal. First, the long reverb. But I found light. And next, the short reverb. But I found light. And if you're a beginner, I would recommend you start with these reverbs. They're the easiest to find, they're the easiest to use. You simply turn them up until you feel like it sounds right, and that's all you have to do. So next on our list of vocal reverb basics is delay or echo. And GarageBand makes that really easy with the master echo slider here. So if I turn it off, you'll hear what it's like without it. But I found light. But now let's add the echo and see what it sounds like. I'm gonna go to about closer to halfway. Let's give it a try. But I found light. And that is sounding really good to me based on the context of this song. So let me unsolo this vocal and we can hear everything in context, which is really how we should be mixing. But I found light. But I found very nice. So really with a few clicks, we have a nice luscious reverb and delay sound already, and it was that easy. But I know that some of you want to go super deep and you really want to get super fancy with it and use some of the plug-in versions of reverb that GarageBand offers. So let's jump into that. But before we go there, if you're just getting started in GarageBand, then check out my 5-part mini course called GarageBand 101, which is free when you become an email subscriber here. So if I go down to the bottom, I can look for an empty slot, then I'll go on down to reverb, of course, and I'm going to skip over inverb and go to platinum verb because this is the first long reverb here in this list. So now I'll hit play on this reverb and let's see what the default setting sounds like. But I found light. Not bad, not bad at all. So let's take a look at this box here and I'm going to show you what some of these parameters mean. And I'm actually going to go from the bottom up because I think the most important knob in this whole box is the wet knob. This determines how much of that wet reverberated sound is going to make it into your mix. So if I turn that way up, you can hear its dramatic effect. But I found light. Or if I turn it way down, you can hear how it's barely in there. But I found light. So if we go up, we see the dry knob. That's how much of the dry signal is coming in and out. We're gonna leave that at 100. And then I wanna get up to spread. So what the spread knob does is it actually starts to take your reverberated signal and pan it out wide so it doesn't interfere with the lead vocal, which is panned up the middle. And now I'm gonna spread out that reverberated signal just a bit. I'll do it dramatic so you can hear it. And now it's gonna go around the vocal and sound a bit more ambient. But I found light. So it just has a wider effect and it doesn't interfere with the lead vocal quite as much. Then the last two that I wanna show you is the high cut. So what the high cut is, it's like throwing this ambient blanket over all the reverberated signals. So if I have it up high, it's actually not being cut at all. It's not throwing that ambient blanket over it. But if I turn it way down, then it's throwing a huge ambient blanket over those reverberated signals, which means that your lead vocal cuts through a bit more in the mix, whereas the reverberated signal just kind of becomes this ambient thing in the background, which is really cool. So let's turn it all the way up and give it a listen. But I found light. So the reverbs are very clear, they're pristine, they're almost just like the lead vocal. Now if we turn it to the other end, it should be much more ambient. But I found light. So it's pretty subtle, but those reverbs sound more like they're in a tin can, which is kind of a cool effect. It's more of the telephone effect, if you will. Then the last thing I want to show you on this is the reverb time. So the reverb time is obviously how long it extends out. Right now it's at about 3 seconds, but I could make that go way up and it would be this endless reverb, right? But I found light. So next, let's go to another reverb, and this is inverb, which is a short reverb. And just to start, I'm gonna go ahead and turn up the dry signal all the way. So the only thing I'm gonna show you on this reverb is the wet knob. That's the only thing I really adjust with it. So if I turn it all the way down and give it a go. But I found light. So if I turn that way up now. But I found light. So it has this very close quarters reverb to it, which could be really cool for like a rock song. If you're trying to go for some kind of unique vocal sound, that would be a cool effect. So beyond that, you have 2 more reverbs, but honestly, I rarely ever use them. I tend to use the platinum verb, which is long, and the inverb, which is short. And even more than that, I tend to use the master reverb, which is long, and then the panel reverb over here, which is short. So next, I want to talk about some reverb techniques, some secret tips and hacks, if you will. So the first tip is actually to create some background vocals that sing highlighted phrases of your song. And then with those background vocals, I put a ton of reverb on them. So if you'll notice with these 2 background vocals, they're turned down a bit in the mix, they're panned out just a little bit in the mix, and the reverb is all the way up. And the effect that it has is really cool when it says the word light. But I found light. So stinking cool. That's so much fun. And I just sang light a few times and added a bunch of reverb and some ambience to those tracks, and they add so much emphasis and power to that single word. So another little reverb trick that you can use is if you want to have more reverb on your lead vocal at certain parts of the song and then less reverb on the vocal at other parts of the song, you can actually create a second track and simply give 1 more reverb. And typically your choruses or your bigger parts of the song, they'll have more reverb. So you'd put your chorus vocal on that track. And then on the opposite side, if you're in a more scaled back part of the song, like the verse, then you would put that in the track with less reverb on it. And it just creates this dynamic that when you're in the verse, you have a certain amount of reverb, but when you get to the chorus, things just open up and become more lush as far as reverb goes. Here's a little hack that you can use for luscious vocal reverb, and that's actually combining different reverb sounds together. So in my case, I have combined this long-tailed reverb of the master reverb with a bit of the short-tailed reverb of the panel reverb, and then I'm actually going to go over and add even more reverb here through my platinum verb, and with a combination of all of those, let's take a listen. But I found light. But I found light. Woo! That's sounding good. I love that. Then the last reverb hack that I want to show you is using automation to create long reverb tails. So if I hit A on my typing keyboard, it'll bring up what are called automation lanes. And now I can go in here to my lead vocal, I can click this drop down menu, and I can actually choose a lot of different effects that I can manually automate. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my platinum verb. I'm going to click on the wet tab. I'm going to click here and I'm going to create a really big tail for my reverb on the phrase light. Now you don't want to just have it come in all of a sudden. You want to kind of slope it in like that. And now let's solo it in here. But I found light. So it just kind of extends that tail at the end of a phrase, which is really cool. So I want to show you one more special effect, if you will, of reverb, and that's to create this big ambient, almost pad out of your voice. So let me hit play on the intro of this song and you'll hear what I'm talking about. So did you hear that long kind of ambient vocal in the background? Well, in reality, that's just someone singing a part. Listen to this. So I just took a clip from my singer and I put a whole bunch of reverb on it. So here's how I did that. If I go into this track, I actually use the space D reverb, which you can find right here. And if I pull it up, I went into its presets, went down to warp effects, moving spaces, and chose ambient current, which creates this long kind of endless tail to it. You can see it has a 17-second tail. And finally, I turned the dry output down to 0. I muted it so that we only hear the reverberated signal and we don't hear the original clear vocal. And so what that does is creates this really cool vibe, or this really cool texture essentially, that can go behind your instruments and just add some nice warmth to the arrangement without taking it over.
God is my light, my strength, my hope, and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? He is my rock.
So I think you get the idea. It's just a really cool effect that you can use in a song like this, or you can also use it in a more intense and moody song as well. So that's it for this video. I hope this is exciting. I hope this is a blast. And as usual, if you have a question about the stuff I'm talking about right here, leave a comment below and I do my best to try and keep up with those questions. So this is Dean signing out from the Songwriting Studio, and I'll catch you in the next video.